For the longest time, we've thought of the cloud as this all-powerful, central brain for the entire internet. But that model is starting to buckle under the sheer weight of all the data our world is creating. So today, we're going to talk about the next great shift in how our digital world actually works: edge computing.
To really get why edge computing is such a big deal, we first have to wrap our heads around the scale of the problem it's trying to solve. And honestly, it's a problem of almost unimaginable size. We're talking about a true data tsunami heading right for us.
All right, check out this number, 500 zettabytes. Just a few years ago, that was the projection for how much data would be produced by people, machines, and all those Internet of Things devices. And to give you some perspective on that, that's 500 times trillion gigabytes. It's a number so big it's hard to even comprehend.
Okay, but here's the catch. This is where it gets crazy. Of those 500 zettabytes of data being created, all the data centers in the entire world, combined, could only handle about 10 of them. That gap is staggering, and it tells you something really important. Most of the data we're creating just can't make that long journey all the way to a central cloud to be processed.
And look, let's be clear, the cloud has been absolutely amazing, right? It's the engine that powers our favorite apps, our Netflix binges, and pretty much our entire digital lives. For years, if you needed serious computing power, the cloud was the answer.
So the way this has always worked is pretty simple, really. You have a device, say your phone, that creates some data. It sends that raw info up to the cloud. The cloud does all the heavy lifting, all the thinking, and then sends a result back down to you. It's a clean process, but as we're seeing, it's not always the most efficient. But this whole model is starting to hit a major traffic jam, and it really comes down to three big problems. First, that data deluge we talked about. An autonomous car can crank out a gigabyte of data every single second. A modern airplane, 5 gigabytes per second. You just can't send all that to the cloud. Second, there are speed limits. Our internet pipes just aren't getting bigger fast enough, and that creates lag, or latency. And third, privacy. Every time your sensitive data has to travel over the public internet, it creates a potential security risk. So yeah, clearly we need a totally new approach to handle all this traffic. And that, my friends, brings us to the really elegant solution that's changing everything: moving the computing to the edge.
And this right here, this is the big change. On the one hand, you've got the old way, every little bit of data traveling a long way to the cloud. But with edge computing, we're adding this new, super important layer right in the middle, called the edge. It's like a local, smart middleman that sits between our devices and the big cloud.
So, what is edge computing really? When you boil it all down, it just means we're doing the number crunching close to where the data is actually being made. Instead of sending everything on a long road trip, we process it locally, right there at the edge of the network.
I love this analogy because it just clicks. Think of it like this. The cloud is like our giant, centralized brain. It's fantastic for deep thinking and long-term storage, but for things that need a split-second reaction, you need local reflexes. That's exactly what the edge gives our devices.
And hey, this isn't just some abstract idea. Look at these numbers from a real-world test. A face recognition job that took 900 milliseconds to process way up in the cloud took only 169 milliseconds on the edge. That is more than 5 times faster. It's the difference between something feeling seamless and something feeling painfully slow.
All right, so it's way faster. That's cool. But what does this actually mean for you and me? Let's dive into a couple of really powerful examples of where the edge is going to make a huge, huge difference. Okay, let's start with a really intense scenario. Imagine a child gets lost in a big, crowded city. Now, if that's a smart city, it's filled with cameras and sensors. How to use all that data to find them as fast as humanly possible?
Now, the old way would be to try and upload all the video from thousands of cameras to one place. It's impossible. But the edge approach? It's genius. Instead of pulling all the data in, you push the search request out to all the edge devices. Each camera searches its own footage right there on the device, and only if it finds a match does it send that one tiny piece of information back. It's unbelievably faster, and it protects the privacy of everyone else.
Okay, let's bring this idea a little closer to home. Literally. We've all heard the promise of the smart home, right? But let's be honest, sometimes our devices feel kind of slow, and they totally rely on our internet connection working perfectly. The edge is here to fix that. So, in a smart home that's powered by the edge, you have a local hub. Think of it as a mini brain right there in your house.
That means footage from your security cameras gets analyzed inside your home, not sent off to some company's server. When you tell your lights to turn on, it happens instantly because the command doesn't have to go on a round trip across the internet. It's just faster, more private, and way more reliable.
Okay, so this all sounds amazing, right? But shifting from one central brain to millions of tiny ones all over the place, well, it's not exactly simple. It actually creates a whole new set of really complex and fascinating challenges that we have to figure out.
First up, the big one, security. I mean, think about it. When you spread the intelligence out everywhere, you also spread out all the potential weak spots for hackers. Figuring out how to secure billions of smart devices is frankly a monumental challenge.
And then there's the whole management nightmare. How on earth do you program and coordinate millions, maybe billions of different devices that all need to play nicely together? Getting your phone and your thermostat to talk is one thing. Getting all the devices in a city to work in harmony is a whole other level of complicated.
And this might be the biggest question of all. Who actually owns the data that's being processed on the edge? If data from your security camera is processed in your house, you probably feel like you own it. But what about data processed on a public camera on a street corner? Who owns that? The lines get really blurry really fast.
So when you strip it all away, here's the most important thing to remember. Edge computing isn't just a new gadget or app. It is a fundamental architectural shift. We are moving from a world where all the power and all the intelligence lived in a few giant data centers to a world where it's distributed everywhere.
And that leaves us with one last really big idea to chew on. We've been talking about moving data processing to the edge. But what happens when we start moving decision-making to the edge? What happens when your car, your home, or your city starts thinking for itself in real time without needing to phone home to the cloud for permission? That's the future the edge is building, and it's one we are just now beginning to understand.